Greetings. A number of people working through their program reviews have arrived here at this productivity trends page. Maybe new information for folks to look at. So the purpose of this video is to provide a quick explanation of what this is, where the numbers come from, and what you might think the rest of the story that you need to tell for your department. So on this page we have at the top there's the definition here. The FTES per FTEF values represent the sum of the FTES earned by all the funding accounting methods divided by the total faculty load to instruct those courses. Explain that a little bit more in a minute. And then the WICHES per FTEF, the weekly student contact hours per FTEF, represents the value, a scaled measure of productivity for comparison with districts across the state. Where do these numbers come from? So what I'm going to do is pop over here to Excel and show you a couple of extracts. Okay, so here is the extract of some math classes. If you look over here, we've got Math 10, Math 20, Math through Math 70, and it goes on down the line. These are all out of fall 2011. And if you just take one line and look at it, then okay, so coming across this class, it was a Math 20 class, which means 5 hours a week, and it had 44 students enrolled on census day. Actually, and then over here is the FTES associated with those, which is 7.7. And this load is a 5 hour a week class, and so it's a 33 1/3% load. And then to calculate these productivity ratios, it's simply a matter of taking 7.7 and dividing it by 0.33, which comes up with this 23.09, or more or less. If you look up here, you can see we are carrying as many decimal places as necessary, and then rounding those off for display on the screen. So there's the simple FTS per FTF. As you can notice in looking at things, this is 44 students enrolled, and this ratio is about 23. If this was 22, then 22 doubled would be 44. So there is a sort of an understanding to look at. I think I'll hit that more on a more thorough video, but this 23.09, if you double it, gets you 46, which is kind of the weighted average, in a sense, of the enrollment here, because we're in a compressed semester. And because of that, we gather a little bit more apportionment than our enrollment would dictate. So this class here is 24. You double it, you get 48. And so in a sense, because of the compressed calendar, we're getting an extra person out of enrollment, more or less. Okay, there's the FTS per FTF. To calculate the weekly student contact hours per FTF, this shows it's a scaled measure that allows MJC to compare apples to apples with other colleges across the state that calculate their weekly student contact hours on a traditional semester. Because we're on a scaled semester, we have to do a little manipulation that I'll show you on another video. But we take this value here and we multiply out by the 525 hours per contact hours per full-time equivalent student, and divide that by a 17.5 week traditional semester to say that the WICHES for this class is 692, 693, which is a good one. You're going to see numbers that range from small values. Small values come from small enrollments. They also come from small numbers of contact hours. Math 10 is a 4-unit class, but 23 students gets a productivity value of 371. Then you also get some really high values. This 1800 comes from a large enrollment, 101 students enrolled in this Math 47 to special independent class. 101 students though, and the full-time equivalent faculty, the faculty load for that class, is small. It's only a 0.075. So when you divide our 4.51 FTES by this 0.075, it gets you a FTES ratio there of 60. Again, if you double that, it's 120, so there's quite a scale up there. But then it also has these really high WICHES per FTF value. Well, in order to figure out the department-wide values, you take all of these individual courses. There's a lot of 33% classes. There's several 20% classes right here. There's some 20s here, and the FTES are associated with each of those. Here's a small class. It's 20%. Only 2.44 FTES because it only had 23 students. We take all the FTES for the entire department and you add them up. So across all math classes in fall 2011, there was almost 600 FTES. And then across all math classes in fall 2011, there's 27.61 full-time equivalent faculty. So that's the sum of all the loads, whether they're full-time or part-time or overload classes. When you divide these two numbers, 599 over the 27.61, it gets you 21.71. And then we scale that up, and that's a department-wide wishes per FTF value of 651. And statewide, folks are looking to have wishy values between 500 and above. And so 651 is nice and solid. Let's look at another department. In the history department, I've highlighted a couple of things that are a little different. So here's your standard History 101 20% class with 44 students enrolled. This was probably in Founders Hall somewhere. And so that one comes up with a FTS per FTF of 22.68 and nice values of 680 on the wishies. But down here, this one that's highlighted yellow is a 60% load, and that's got 154 students in it. And so what you're seeing here, this is a triple class. 3 times 20% is 60%. This class is a 20% traditional 3-unit class, but then here's an 80%. Well, that one comes from being a quad, 210 students. It's off in the Forum building somewhere. When you look at that class, its productivity, it comes at 22.3 FTES, but it's got a higher load. It's got this 80% load. So its FTES per FTEF is 28, more or less. So again, we've got a couple of things going on in the grand scheme. We've got a quad-sized class, and it has 210 students in it. But if you think of this 28 and double it, you get 56. And in a sense, what we're saying here is between the compressed calendar and this being a quad class, it's got an average class size across, in a sense, 4 sections of 56 students. So you can see why the numbers are going up too, but again, doubling it, 28 doubled gives you 56, and so this quad gives an effective class size of about 56. Its 836 wishes per FTEF is really high. Across the state, you're going to see the social sciences, especially the large lecture halls, have large ratios like that. Again, to calculate department-wide totals, you just scroll to the bottom, you take the sum of all FTES, right? Add those things all up, and then you get the sum of all of the FTEF, all of the loads. You divide the two numbers and get 25.7, and the wishes per FTF is 770, which is department-wide in the fall only. And then let's look one more at a smaller department. It's a little easier to see a couple of things. I was in discussion with an anthropology instructor about fall 2010, and she paid attention in particular to this value, and it came up, your deans can pull these more thorough reports. In the CurricuNet, there's only just the department-wide numbers here, but we can get down in this report structure that we get out of Datatel, and we can look at these regular or adjunct or overload values. She was concerned about this 2.20. She said it's not accurate. We have 3 people in the department, but the reality for her is that one of the members of the department was on sabbatical. And so during this fall 2010 term, the total load taught by regular full-time faculty was only 2.2. Don't know exactly what the 0.2 is about there. It could be an error. It could be that something was coded incorrectly in the office. It could be that it was a banked leave opportunity somehow to make up the rest of the sabbatical. There's a number of different things could go on, and that's part of telling the story. The remainder of the department had several 20% classes. There was a double-sized class there. There was a quad. There's another quad. And down through the department, it earned a total of 87.34 FTES over 3.8 FTEF for about 23 here. So again, that's about doubled 46 students on average, which is respectable. And their Wiki values for the fall 2010 were 690. Okay, so you see how to calculate these values out. Two more things to show you quickly. One is, as we prepared these program review data sheets, we made a mapping between various different departments. And this was based on input from division deans. So anatomy, anatomy phys, microbiology, and physiology all mapped to a program review data sheet. We call it Anat Phys Micro. Working with Mr. Anglin, we came up with animal science and dairy industry working together as a program, and so those map to this anti-dairy industry. And then as we go across to figure out where this data comes from, we had this big program data sheet here that has, looks like 968 different lines associated with various different semesters and all the different departments, and we mapped those to the various different program review data sheets. There's one of those Anat Phys Micro ones, and we calculated the sums. So for instance, here's all the anatomy, physiology, and microbiology numbers. This was the total sum of all FTES across 06-07 fall and spring, and this is the FTEF in the same 06-07 fall and spring. We divide those two numbers to come up with this 18.78 and scale that out for the Wichi's values and get 563. Down here in the animal science dairy industry, again, it compiled all courses across the animal science and dairy industry disciplines and got the total FTES. We got the total FTEF and divided those numbers and came up with the 433. And then it was these numbers here that were used to populate Curricunet. So if you track the first two, the 18.78 and the 563, you'll see that those are here, the 18.78 and the 563. And those are compared against college-wide numbers that were calculated in the same way, 16.59 and 498. And the graphs down here show those two things compared to each other on this end of the picture and on this end of the picture here. Here we go. In closing, your goal on this page is to review these numbers, to come down and check how the graphs chart out how your department looks compared to the college. As you do, remember that the college is sort of a net average across the board, so half the departments will be above and half will be below, more or less on average. And then when you get down to this analysis box, this is your free response. Put what matters here. You know, this is your box. You can provide input on the ratios. You can explain why your ratios are up or down. You can discuss things such as sabbaticals and leaves, retirements, whatever it is that affects these graphs and these numbers. This is your opportunity within your program review to input that information. Thanks for your time.